Hello, beautiful people. I am Oliver Perrin for Semiagog, joined today by Mr. Tim Rudisil from the eastern reaches of Tennessee, complete with trapeze, it seems. Everybody, please do let me know whether or not we are both properly visible and whether the audio is working like it ought to. Yeah, hopefully that will be the case. For some reason, though I know people are in the stream, it's showing 0 viewers, which is a little bit odd. But yeah, so. Okay, yeah, it's showing some in there now. Okay, we got a 5 out of 5 on audio and picture, which seems like we're doing fairly well. There's a little bit of funkiness going on with the mic, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, all right.
You don't have a fan blowing directly at your face or anything, do you, Tim?
No.
Okay. Well, hot dog. Ladies,
very quiet.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Today we will be talking about the American South. Some reflections, some remarks, some general fact chewing and nonsense. After that, we will take questions. So if you're interested in that part of the process, I keep wanting to start charging for it. And Tim's like, you shouldn't charge for asking questions. So for the time being, this is going to remain blissfully free. However, all of you are encouraged, dare I say, enjoined even to send folding money. And for those who wish to support the channel, there is GoFundMe and there is Subscribestar. In just a moment, I'm going to show you the Praetorian Chads who make this channel possible, who do support it. I thank them very much. But before we do that, remember to follow Semiagog as well as A Safer Space. You can do it on BitChute. You can do it on YouTube. I am definitely moving a whole bunch of the operation over to Odyssey, which seems to be going well. They either have or are right on the cusp of having a live streaming service over there. So I'm looking forward to that very much. That should make things much more interesting. So yeah, definitely follow me over on Odyssey. And there is also Telegram, where I am now active. There is Gab and there is Twitter. And there's Minds, but I haven't visited it in a while. I don't know how all that's going to go. So yes, first Praetorian Chads. Let me get over here, share this screen. How do I do this? There we go. Share screen. These, ladies and gentlemen, are the mighty people who make this channel possible. I thank them one and all of the credit certainly, and none of the blame. Seriously, my most sincere thanks for helping to support me and make all this happen. I do indeed appreciate it. Now,
they're good folks, one and all.
Absolutely. What is it? It means a lot. And this is this is my science fiction book. It's called Vinculum. You can get it over on Amazon under the name Oliver Perrin. It's called Vinculum. It's a dystopian tale set in a dark and dismal future, one that we're rapidly coming up on, it seems. Stranger than science. This is my collection of poems. It's called Cinders from the Bloomery of Youth. You can find that under the name Oliver Timothy Perrin. And with each free copy comes some of Tim's loud throat clearing. Also, John Goris very kindly sent me this book. This is called Cultured Drugs. I don't know anything about the person whose blog posts or vlog posts or something are herein enshrined in text. I read a little bit of it thus far, and to be honest with you, his writing annoys me because he's got all kinds of sentences that are missing pieces, but I'm going to keep an open mind. John Goris himself is awesome, and so I thank him for the gift. And I think the publisher, I've seen a little bit going on Twitter, that's Antelope Hill Publishing or some such. I don't know if you can see that. So maybe check them out. They seem to be a dissident right publisher, so we shall see. Yeah, I think that covers everything. Did you have any introductory remarks? Tim, did you want to tell any people anything about
money?
Well, there is always that, right?
Lots of folding money.
And what do you did you want to tell anybody? Did you want to give anybody some contextualization for your new setting?
No.
Okay. All right. He's got a jungle gym going on or something. But you're still in the same room, just in a different location in it, as I understand. Hot damn.
Trapeze, so that I can lift myself around as I want to.
There it is.
Got some difficulties with the shoulders and the feet and whatnot. And so I'm making such adjustments as must be made.
Well, hot dog. Yeah, we got John Gora saying that you're currently in outer space. You know,
Sure.
apparently there's going to be a strange red glowing light that says, "There will be no further Brunswick stew, Dave." Okay. Now, we do have some remarks in the background. People, some people calling you the Q nut, which really doesn't fit, but I'm not even going to kick sand backwards on that. We got questions about talking about Louisiana. I suppose possibly that might get glossed under the subject of the South.
Yes.
I think I should probably, though, add something here about everything you hear is sheer speculation. Everything is fine. Biden is enlightened. What's that sound? Let's just say enlightened and kind. As well as the U.S. White people should be ashamed.
Yeah.
Get that one up on screen.
Everything you hear is sheer speculation.
Yeah, there we go. Good. All right. So on this subject of the South, I tend to think of the South as being, from, sort of, I mean, if you really want to be specific, you can call it the southern half of Delaware, but it's probably safer to start with the Mason-Dixon line and say Maryland and Virginia, and then running down and westward as far as Louisiana. Some people want to throw in things like West Virginia, Arkansas, and Kentucky. What are your thoughts on the zone that is called the South?
Well, now the South has to be.
Does it include Texas, for example?
Well, that's what I was going to deal with. Texas is a unique situation. Texas, you may recall, was its own country.
I do.
Had its own flag, and was not part of the Union or part of the Confederacy until they declared for the Confederacy.
Yes, and the Texans will never tire of telling you all about how unique they are and how they're really a nation in their own right.
Right. They seem to forget that each of the states was, for good and substantial reason, considered a nation in itself. They simply joined together in a federalized system that allowed them to have one entity to handle such things as went beyond the ranks and rights of one state.
Well, now we're more or less familiar with that. Now, would you say that Texas is a part of the South?
No, I wouldn't.
These damn Texans. All right, so where does it begin and end? We're going to be catching hell because there are a bunch of Texas people in the house.
Well, sure. Texas people joined the Confederacy. Excuse me. After it became an issue on the international level, which is when the states that formed the Confederacy formed their own confederacy, as distinct from a republic.
Okay, so
don't realize that war was not fought over slavery. That war was not fought over anything except the rights of states.
We're familiar with that now. But some people are familiar with this. Other, it's going to be like this. Others are not. The implication that sits there behind the scenes with everything that you're saying is that you're more or less making determinations about what's in the South based on which states seceded and went for the Confederacy.
Well, that's pretty much what you've got.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's explicit.
You've got West Virginia that's Southern, but it's not really.
Right, because they're a bunch of traitors. And what about Kentucky? Kentucky ain't in there either, huh?
Well, Kentucky is an odd place. Kentucky, you've got to remember, has a very old civilization that divides into parts: flatlanders and mountaineers.
Well, to be honest with you, if they're not in the South, I say fuck them, and we don't even need to talk about them. Why do them the kindness?
Well, I don't have any difficulty with doing them the kindness.
Well, you were subject to their hospitality for some time, weren't
Yes,
you?
I was. I was up at Lexington, the Lexington Federal Medical Center.
Yes, that must have
Yes,
been
I
lovely.
was. BOP, courtesy of.
They've got their horses and their bourbon, then, don't they?
Well, that's good enough for them.
All right. Okay, so we're basically talking about now Florida. What about Florida?
What about it?
Would you consider that a part of the South?
No.
Is that something more recent, or is that something that has always been the case?
Something more recent.
So once upon a
Before
time it
about
was.
before about the 1960s or 70s, Florida was part of the South. After that, it became part of Yankeedom.
Yes, well, what was that joke? They're like hemorrhoids. They come down and they don't go back up.
That's right.
Those
As
damn
soon as we got rid of the mosquitoes in Florida, Yankees took over.
Right. Well, I guess that particular slot in the biosphere had to be filled by something, and if it wasn't filled by mosquitoes, nature abhors a vacuum, and hence the Yankees come down.
Yankees, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nothing wrong
Okay.
with it.
All right. And to be fair, we got Sarah Connor in the house. She just said, I'm from Florida. Tallahassee is about the most southern. I have seen that a lot of the panhandle is actually fairly southern.
Uh-huh. Well, that's nice.
I think that there is the case that can be made, even as much as I dislike the fact that West Virginia were a bunch of traders and Kentucky as well. I think there's a case that could be made that, loosely speaking, Texas, Kentucky, and West Virginia and Florida can sort of be considered a part of the South in parts. I tend to think of East Texas more as being the South, because the rest of Texas very swiftly becomes that whole sort of Southwest scene, as soon as you stop having trees. All right. So here's my question for you, Mr. Tim. Is there anything about the South as roughly construed here that you would say is a unifying feature, other than the historical participation in the war between the states?
It's good manners.
Do you think that they still got it?
Yes, I do. Southerners do anyway.
Why do you think that is?
Because we were raised to it.
And whence came that tradition?
Well, it's twofold: the old courtly traditions and the tradition of everybody having a gun and would shoot your ass if you weren't polite.
Well, there it is. That's sort of a straightforward, materialist hypothesis to explain those circumstances, right?
It tends to very well.
Yeah, it puts me in mind of.
Go ahead.
Pardon me.
No, it's all right. You go ahead, Ollie.
Well, there was a story, and it's actually out of Britain, but I rather liked it. I was when I was studying bookbinding out in California, there was this guy Tom. We'd be at the work table there together, and we were talking about dueling and these other things. And I think I told you the story. I'm sure I told you the story. There was a guy who was apparently a bare knuckles boxer back in the day, probably late 19th, early 20th century, probably early 20th century. And some people got up and some journalists got up and asked him, after he'd become a champion of something or another, the kind of thing of like pickling your fists and brine before you fight, that kind of dude.
Sure.
And they said, what's your best advice for dealing with fights? And he said, keep a civil tongue in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to fit the Southern model.
Yes, it does.
But now you were about to say something.
Well, I was just about to say that you can take the people in Virginia and the people in South Carolina, and they markedly differ from those in Kentucky, West Virginia, North Carolina, nowadays quite a bit from North Carolina, and Georgia. They don't have the same values.
Yeah, Georgia and North Carolina seem to be going to hell quickly.
In a handbasket, yes.
Very quickly. And likewise, Florida. Florida just continues its
Florida has, just been garbage. I'm sorry. Florida's been garbage since the late 70s.
And you're not saying that just for the hell of it. You have people that come from there who were there for some time, right?
Well, yes, I do.
And you spent time growing up there, did you not?
Yes, I did. And I will tell you that Florida used to be the Wild West without all that John Wayne bullshit. Florida was the Wild West as the Wild West should have been if it had had any water. Thing is, nobody wanted to talk about Florida. They just don't. Probably because up until the 1970s, it was still a lot of the Wild West. And a lot of people got killed there.
Yeah, where you told me old stories about you toss the body somewhere where alligators will pull it up under a bank.
Well, yeah, pull it back into their hole, let it tender up a bit. Alligators don't have any lateral movement to their jaws. And so they are stuck going chomp, chomp, chomp. So pieces have to be able to come off pretty easy.
Well, there it is. Now, my problem with Florida, and it's really my problem with most of the Gulf Coast. I mean, although there are some spots that actually are quite nice in the Florida Panhandle there, although now they're overrun with all the wrong kind of people. I'll go ahead and say that, but they're quite beautiful. Over in that section from Destin on over in Pensacola and that area, it's very, very beautiful. And the water's blue. You get further to the west and it's all brown from, Mississippi to Mississippi, you want to say, right?
No, I was thinking about Chattahoochee River.
Chattahoochee River doesn't empty into the Gulf, does it?
Does it?
You
ever heard of the Apalachicola?
Hang on just a second.
All right.
Here on maps. I mean, because I know about the damn brown trout and tissue fish problem of the Chattahoochee in general, but
where do you think it flows out to, old son?
I don't know. Hang on. You're gonna get to abuse me. I feel sure.
Oh yeah.
It could go out to the Atlantic for all I know.
It doesn't go out to the Atlantic. It goes out the Gulf.
All right. Well, I'm having a problem being old. I'm going to go ahead and let you go on that one.
Have you ever heard of the Apalachicola?
Yes.
Okay.
Just another branch of Chattahoochee.
All
right. Well, anyway, noted, acknowledged. However, I will say that much of the Gulf Coast there is just ugly with that damn brown ass water. It's really ugly.
Every time they flush in Atlanta, it goes up a bit.
And Florida in general, just being flat, there's something about me that's constitutionally disinclined to deal with any of this flat shit. I just don't want to be around flat things.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah. So it's Piedmont and north for me. All right. Well, now, are there any particular things? I have a great selection. I've solicited a selection of Southern sayings, which I'd like to review.
All right.
Most of them you'll probably know. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask if you could, like, in a sentence or more, but not much more, throw a summary of some of these Southern areas. If I were just to say Maryland as a part of the South, and you were just to try to summarize it in some distillation, what would you say about Maryland in the concisest possible terms to describe it? I mean, these days, shithole comes to mind for me.
Boring.
Does that have anything to do with its Catholicism?
No, very little to do with its Catholicism. Mostly it has to do with how it has changed over the years.
Okay.
It has become boring.
Yeah, and it's also it went. That's a kind of ironic to use the expression in this context, but it went south a long time ago.
Yes, it did.
All right. Likewise, Virginia. I think probably the fall of Virginia is a great place. I mean, outside of leaving aside areas like Roanoke and the mountains, which were probably quite nice up until more recently, but like areas, Richmond and Arlington and that sort of thing.
Virginia has been polluted by too close a contact with Washington, D.C.
And how would you summarize Virginia?
Virginia has become a New York South. That's all.
Basically, you're referring there to the fact that the sprawl runs as far south as Richmond.
All right.
Okay. Well, there it is. Man, some of the most beautiful terrain and country in the nation, though. It just really.
Oh, it was beautiful at one time. It still is, but they're building over it. They've got to live near the sources of their power.
Yeah, and so it's that old. Damn it, who was it? Oh, it's Lester Maddox quote. It's the famous Lester Maddox quote. We'll keep having this problem until we get a better class of people in there.
That's right.
All right. What about North Carolina?
North Carolina. Well,
you got people from there too, don't you?
Yes, I do. My father's family is from North Carolina. It has nothing to do with what North Carolina was even back in the 60s and 70s.
I'll tell you, going up there to summer camp in the 80s, and it was still a very, very different place from what it is now. It's just, it's turning into, they're trying to make the rural parts of North Carolina into like Portland.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, it's horrifying. I was looking for land up that way and found something just over the border because I just flatly wouldn't even look in North Carolina. I don't even want to be in the state now, which is a great shame. Because it's also got huge areas that are just gorgeous. But
yes,
I found this one little area with like possible land, and then like it zoomed in closer, and it said reggaeton, and it's like a reggae music park. And I'm like, that's what I want as a neighbor, is a reggae music park. Yeah, no, thank you. Okay, what about South Carolina? And low country boys, I do declare.
Well, now that's part of it. There's also mountains in South Carolina. You just don't hear much about them, but they're there.
Yeah, I drive through them.
The low country tends to be what everybody thinks about with regard to South Carolina. The Geechee and so on tend to be there.
Blue gum Geechee?
Well, that's one type of Geechee, yes, but it's a definite type. Son, you don't have any understanding at all of South Carolina culture.
I know nothing of it, indeed.
There was a fellow I was in prison with who was from South Carolina, the Low Countries. And he and I referred to each other as cuz, because a whole lot of his people were probably descended from mine.
This being an African-American fellow citizen.
He was actually a pygmy type.
Are you saying he was short?
Very. He was a pygmy. Are you familiar with the pygmies of Africa?
I am familiar with the pygmies of Africa.
Well,
yes.
He was a pygmy of Africa whose people had been brought over here as slaves.
and crossbred with some of your people.
Quite probably. Not too much, though, because he was still very, very dark and very, very African.
But y'all were buddies, having shared background.
Well, yes, and the fact that it didn't bother me in the least to call him cuz, because I considered him to be a cousin. See, that's what people don't understand about the South. You have degrees of consanguinity that are unrecognized in other parts of the world. And they cross racial lines.
And your
nobody,
thoughts?
Go ahead, please.
But nobody what?
Well, but nobody takes consideration of them anymore.
All right, very quick before we jump to the next of the states, we have an excellent question here. For your Southern barbecue sauce, for those who don't know, there are a few different traditions of it. The primary distinction being whether it's vinegar or sweet. Which of those do you prefer, Tim?
Sweet.
You like it sweet. See, now I like the more vinegary sauce. That's just me. All right.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let it out.
The real thing is that no matter how you slice it, you've got to understand that vinegar was vinegar sauces were, to be honest with you, not really the way to travel, because they were predominantly based upon the idea that the barbecue was already bad. And so you use the vinegar sauce to disguise the flavor.
I'm just going to say, I don't believe that shit, because frankly, it's a good, I liked it. It was a good rhetorical ploy. But the fact is that sugar gets used to cover up all kinds of stank too, constantly. So, I don't know. Perhaps we can just agree to disagree on this one.
We can agree to disagree on that one.
Now, and mind you, I don't mind good barbecue with the sweet type sauce either. It's not like that for me. But now, how would you finally summarize South Carolina then?
A place is being taken over by Georgia.
Well, that's a perfect segue to come over to Georgia. Georgia, I remember Atlanta being referred to as the city too busy to hate. And
that was under Ivan Allen.
Yeah, and they've got, we're going to hell in a handbasket so damn fast right now. I told you before we started this discussion that I caught some of the stuff on the radio here. And boy, that'll teach me never to ever turn it on again. But it was Raphael Warnock talking about how, basically race, blah, 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 race, blah, 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 race. And now how we have to send huge amounts of money out to the rural areas, but just the black people because of historical inequities. And the way he described it, or one of the hosts who was, playing recordings of them, I can't remember which one it was. They're both, coming off the same talking point sheet in any case. And they were saying basically, we've got this real problem because, money that's been given out by the federal government for support of farms has historically been based on their productivity. And the fact is that all those farms that aren't productive haven't been getting any support. So it's all just equity, communism, equity, communism, equity. So it just seems like another excuse to pull in huge amounts of taxpayer money to distribute it in favor of equity in the rural areas. So you can just sort of read it as a subversion of the country regions, the rural regions, I should say, to be precise. So yeah, to me, Georgia seems like it's not just going south fast. It's going south real fast.
Well, yes. Is there any reason to think that it wouldn't?
Well,
my God, man, you got to understand. We've got a bunch of.
You're about to refer to urbanization. Well, very delicately.
Well, yes, I guess you could say that.
Okay.
You got a bunch of slick talking fellows who got a lot in common with the folks that came in a certain unpleasantness we had a few years back.
So
They're
new
trying
species,
to reconstruct it yet again.
new reconstruction, new gang of carpetbaggers. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, so your prognosis for Georgia is, at least for the present,
I think
rather.
that Stacey Abrams is going to become the queen of the Nile.
I can't wait to see a beautiful fountain of her design where she's just squirting water out between that, with her diastema there and
Sure.
front
Well,
teeth.
you gotta have her sister in there somewhere.
Ugh.
The federal judge.
Yeah, the whole lot of them. Forgive my French,
It's
but
wonderful.
But fuck them. Okay. Right. Sorry. Okay, so we sort of covered Florida already. Let's jump over to Alabama. For people who don't understand, the people in Georgia.
Alabama's just plain crazy.
The people in Georgia make fun of Alabama. The people in Alabama make fun of Mississippi. For those who don't know, there's this sort of like trickle down sort of effect there. But let's start with Alabama. Alabama, I have some exposure. I spent time as a child on the coast around Mobile. And I remember going over to Huntsville on a bus trip and eating the freeze-dried ice cream at the Space Center there and puking on the bus going back. I just never... I like the northern parts of Alabama, but it's kind of like a tornado alley. And then there's just so much crap from the days when Birmingham was, steel production and the rest, that underneath all that nice greenery, it's toxic as hell. So I'm not really sure what to make of Alabama. I want to like it more. And I certainly like plenty of Alabamans that I've met. But the state, I'm not sure about that. How would you characterize Alabama?
The state has been fucked over thoroughly. You talk about its history as a steel manufacturer, an iron manufacturer. You've got to understand that a lot of people moved south from northern reaches, the northern states, after the Civil War, and exploited it.
I'll tell you, Birmingham's a real life shithole today.
Yes. It's a beautiful place, though.
Oh, yeah. The country and shape and some of the old houses and everything. It's just
the way the place feels would be great if everybody behaved themselves, but they won't. Yeah,
that's the problem. Lots of that sort of like middle of Alabama up, sort of like the same thing with Georgia, where once you get up onto the Piedmont, I really like it. The country's beautiful. And like I said, I've met plenty of people from there I like just fine, but man. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about, let's just go ahead. We're going to talk about the M word, Mississippi. What's your thoughts on Mississippi? I've been through it, and much like you could say with Northern Alabama, there are parts, pretty much from Jackson up in Mississippi. There's a lot of beautiful country.
Yeah, there is.
South gets all flat, like I said. We've got a family house down on the coast in Mississippi near Biloxi, so I get down there. And once upon a time, my grandmother lived near Hattiesburg and had sort of a little country house and raised goats and things. So I got to spend some time there as a kid. Vicksburg, I have ancestors who were at the siege of Vicksburg.
So do a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of Southerners. But I don't know the state all that well. How would you characterize it? I mean, when I was a kid growing up, it was always the place that everybody said was the most racist.
Well, it's the most racist because it...
Easy now.
It had the most, aside from Louisiana, it had the most absentee ownership of plantations.
Big sugarcane production.
And so they did not civilize their blacks.
But now I know part of the problem with that, with Louisiana, was it was Catholic, and as you used to talk about, areas that were run by Catholics tended to not have as much pressure put on them for conformity with religious traditions.
Mhm.
And they had the realm of, the cult of the saints, into which Orisha, Voodoo, and all the rest could creep.
Uh-huh.
But wasn't Mississippi pretty Protestant?
Mississippi was a lot of things, partner. Mississippi was mostly owned by people who lived in other cities.
In other
They
states.
lived in the no, they lived in the cities and had their plantations in the rural areas.
And if they're big ass sugarcane plantations,
Wait a minute. And they used, as absentee landlords have always done, freed slaves or higher class slaves as the overseers and foremen.
like a
Because
cattle.
nobody, well, all right, because nobody knows more about the ways that a slave can shirk work than a former slave. It makes good sense. At the same time, you find the same thing done in ancient Rome.
Yep.
Yep.
That's what those freedmen got to doing.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Trimalchio was such a figure. He was a former slave.
Yeah. That's a reference, for those who don't know it, to the Satyricon trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
The one sort of chapter that survives most completely. Yes, the dinner. Trimalchio's dinner. Yes.
Dinner at Trimalchio's. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Fire as far as the eye can see.
Yes. Well,
yeah. You see, there's nothing in the world that is more laissez-faire than a patrician with slaves. Patricians are always willing to make excuses, whereas a slave, former slave or high-class slave, is much less likely to.
Also seems to have
is much more likely to use the whip.
Seems to have quite a bit in common with commissioned versus non-commissioned officers, now that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure that's simply a coincidence. Somebody in the background is saying, is it racism or is it realism? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking on a YouTube live stream. Please bear that in mind. Okay. So
racism, it's all racism.
Could there be anything else? Yeah. Okay. Before we jump up to the last one, which is where we'll get to these interesting sayings, because I've learned a number of interesting sayings from Tennessee through you and your wife, and also I solicited some and got some from that region. So we'll save Tennessee for last. But what do you have to say about Louisiana? That's where all my people are from, on my mother's side and on my father's side, and they've been down there, different groups of them. The most, come at all different times. And the old joke about Louisiana is it's the state so broke it's up for sale. I think once the oil companies came in and they took care of big fish, that country or state has been screwed now for quite some time. So what are your thoughts on Louisiana?
Louisiana is a mishmash of Spanish, French, and all kinds of colonists who went in.
Yes,
and remember that there's basically two versions of Louisiana. There's one everybody thinks about, which contains the Big Easy,
right? The Crescent City.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And then there's further north,
right, which is a different animal. Has much more in common with Arkansas, for example.
Well, it does. Has a lot in common with Arkansas, Mississippi. Has a lot in common with all kinds of places except the Crescent City.
Right, which is much more. I mean, with the accent down there, it sounds more like a New York or New Jersey. Part of the reason that I dug it because it had Lee Circle and a nice big statue, and I like my beignets and my coffee. And I grew up with the snottiness about food, which is fair because they do have rather nice cuisine in my view. But the accent always
Depends on how
threw
you feel about filet powder. Go ahead.
me. Hey, that's primarily what a sassafras, isn't it? Some other
And
things.
other things.
I might have that wrong, man. I'm gonna be
No,
like
it's predominantly sassafras.
my mother will come and just beat me about the head and shoulders for not knowing my heritage. But yeah, it's the accent has so much in common with the Northeastern accents, which kind of make me sick. No offense to anybody who's from the Northeast, but when I hear a New Jersey accent or a New York accent, it's just, I mean, New York City. It just makes me feel nauseous. And to be fair, I get a little bit of it from New Orleans because it's also a port city. You know, it had large numbers of Italians who came in relatively late. You know, even my German ancestors that came through there are pretty late. Relatively speaking, they didn't show up till the 1830s. Sort of the last point at which you could still say it was settlers, you know. But I have Greek relatives who showed up there around 1900, and then I have French relatives who go back to way back. But it's very cosmopolitan, very mixed, and it has that weird ass accent that almost feels like the North, but has some bowing and curving in it that's a bit different.
Well, you got to remember that New Orleans served as a big draw for former slaves.
Oh, well, I know what parts of the Ninth Ward can be like. New Orleans is.
Yeah, but have you considered what it does culturally?
Well, you get things like Marie Laveau's tomb, and you get the cult of the saints, and you get the lack of the imposition.
Go ahead.
The lack of the imposition of cultural norms and standards, which leads you to having a very balkanized, fragmented, city with all sorts of class distinctions and all the rest, and racial distinctions.
Yes, there are. All the way from purebred Africans to octoroons.
Yeah. Yes.
Thing that people don't even talk about anymore.
Yeah.
Quadroons and octoroons.
And high yellows. Yeah. Sure.
Ones that can pass.
Yes.
Yes. Then, of course, there are the Spanish ancestry people.
And lots of Germans along the coast. Many Germans.
They are predominantly colonists.
And a good bit of French blood still down there, too.
Yeah, now the French and the Spanish have a real war going on about New Orleans, though nobody much realizes it. Even people who are from there don't realize it. But it's still going on.
And how would you summarize Louisiana then, other than this division
it's
between
a bastardized mishmash of all kinds of people? There you are.
Yes, indeed. I am a product of New Orleans, and I am a mutt.
A mongrel.
Thank you. Well, let's just move on from Louisiana then, shall we?
Right, shall we?
Yes. Let's come up to Tennessee. How would you characterize Tennessee? For those who don't know, it runs east-west. And from everything I can tell about it, you don't want to be much west of the center because of the great gravity of Memphis, which has beautiful areas around it. It's got a great green, greasy Mississippi River running past it. There's all sorts.
It's got Graceland, man. It's got Graceland.
Yeah, I've been to Memphis, and there are areas of the city from back in the day that look like they could have been quite nice.
Oh yeah.
But these days, it's one of the worst crime places in the South. I mean, it's up there with Birmingham, and
it's because everybody has come to Memphis. When I say everybody, I'm talking about a certain melanin gifted population,
right?
That just shits on everything, destroys everything that it comes in contact with. And so it has predominantly destroyed Memphis.
So, but how would you? That's just to say that for those who aren't familiar with the state or the South or the U.S. or whatever who might be watching, you've got this sort of horizontal arrangement with Tennessee, much more so than
You
any other
basically
state.
got three states.
Sort of
You've got,
Memphis state, the Nashville state, and then the Knoxville, Chattanooga state.
well, actually, I divide them a little differently, but that's all right. There's East Tennessee, that is the mountains. There's Middle Tennessee, that is the largest portion, that contains basically a lot of flat ground with a few mountains in it. And then there is predominantly Memphis.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
what a mess. And what the weird thing was, I was wandering around Memphis because I was there doing field research, and we had to go into people's homes, poor people's homes, because it was research for a fast food company, and that's where I first encountered. And on that same trip, I also went to Birmingham as well, and I got to learn a lot about those areas, man, because we went into poor neighborhoods, into
Yeah.
poor Black people's houses,
Yeah.
and I got to see the inside of a number of poor Black people's houses, and they explained to me that they ate 60 meals a month out of drive-throughs. You know, you don't realize how it works, and then you go, and as part of our field research, you got to find out, call bullshit on it if they're telling the truth or not. So you say, do you mind if I look around your kitchen? Then you open these cabinets and you look inside, and you see that their entire kitchen, the cabinets have, I mean, there might be one package of white rice, that kind of thing, and some plastic wrap, but otherwise they've got plastic forks and silverware that have been saved from the fast food places. They've got lots of ketchup and pepper and salt packets in their kitchen drawers. They've got leftover fast food in the refrigerator, and they'll usually have like one beat up frying pan and one pot for boiling biscotti, and just nothing else in the house other than a living room with a sofa or two and a really big television set. And that's it.
Panem et circenses.
Panem et circenses. Yes. Bread and circuses. Yes. Yes. My friend Tim taught me that ages ago. Yes.
Quite some time.
So yeah, Memphis was really scary. I mean, that's where I heard about the guys who broke into a fast food restaurant, and they were doing it late in the evening, and the oil in the fryer hadn't been changed and hadn't fully cooled down. And the guy ended up, one of them got caught in oil from a fryer, and then I think I heard another story where he got caught in the exhaust because they were trying to kick in the fan and get in through the opening to the ventilation, and got stuck in there and died. So it's just like crazy. Okay, so but Tennessee in general, how would you characterize it?
I'd characterize it as three states.
Which one of them their three is best?
East Tennessee.
That seems to that's what I've seen. Now I will say this though. I will say when I got up to Nashville, because I hadn't been there before, and I had some of the soul food up that way. There's actually some pretty good stuff. The hot chicken actually wasn't bad. And they did have some good Southern food there. And I think I was in a place, it was kind of a yuppie spot. I think it's called Franklin outside of Nashville, but very beautiful, like really nice, hilly and green. Yeah. I can't speak for the people up there, but but that central band of Tennessee is actually really pretty. It just, the problem is.
All you really have to know about Middle Tennessee is that Ben Shapiro and his group of people have moved there. So you know what's in the mix.
Yeah, he's outside of Nashville now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be, I'm looking for land up that way. But as I've mentioned to you, I think I'm going to be it's probably going to be maybe a little west of Knoxville, but not much. And definitely east of Chattanooga, which I've been warned about. Yeah. So.
Well, Chattanooga's the crackhead capital of the world.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think I'm going to be aiming for the eastern part. From the eastern part of the center to the proper east. We'll see. And probably north of that highway corridor.
Well, now you're going to start running into what they call the Tri-Cities.
No, I'm staying away from that because I'm looking at maps. I'm looking at maps that show percentage of urbanization. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
All right. Well then, okay. So I have a number of sayings. I thought it'd be fun. Now, people from the South are going to know many of these, but surprisingly, there were a number I had never heard, and I like to collect these Southern sayings. For those who don't know, I love Southern sayings, and I try to find them and collect them and lay them out. These were sent to me. Some of them I'm well familiar with.
Curate them.
Well, I'm not going to curate. I was just about to say what I'll do is I'll put some of the obvious ones that everybody in the South will know.
Absolutely.
And many people who aren't even from the South will know these, but I'll throw them in because we probably got people from Australia or, from Britain or something that haven't heard of some of these. Now, many of these are going to be familiar to people from Britain because if they're not directly descended from British expression or English expressions or Scots or whatever, lots of Ulster Scots up in the Tennessee area, and in lots of parts of Georgia too. Shit all over the South anyway. These will be expressions that'll sound familiar, and for people who haven't heard any of them, maybe some of the more well-known ones will be familiar to you. If not, you'll learn something by gum. So let's go through some of these, Tim, shall we? Is that a yes? You're waiting politely?
I'm just waiting politely.
All right, let's see what we got here. Now, I'm gonna ask you if you know these because there are some explanations of these sayings that are actually, in some cases, as funny as the sayings. Okay, so have you ever heard of "put the fodder where the calf can get it"?
Yeah.
That is glossed here as "say it so we can understand it plainly," but I guess it could be done in a variety of ways. It's hotter than a hooker's doorknob on payday.
Yeah.
You've heard that one?
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, if any come to mind when I say one, please share the ones that you got.
Oh, I'm just waiting to hear what you got.
All right. Well, one comes to mind for that, which is I remember as a kid hearing, what is it? Hotter than Hades, of course, is what my grandmother would always say in New Orleans because he wouldn't say hell being a good Christian. It was hotter than Hades, Cher.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one? Colder than a witch's titty.
Colder than a witch's tit in a brass brassiere.
Yeah, brass bra. Yeah.
Brass brassiere. You always said brassiere.
Okay. All right now. All right. Now how about this one? Her tin roof's done rusted.
Okay. What about it?
Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
What's it mean?
Well, it means it's been there so long that the zinc has been done off. What are you talking about?
You are so busted. No,
all right.
That's not how it's explained. At least as I have it now. At least as I have it.
Yes.
That's the surprise pregnancy of an unmarried lady.
Oh, well, that's not what I heard, but that's
letting the rain in. Her tin roof's done rusted. Right.
Well, all right.
The barrier is no longer impermeable, I think is what's being hinted at there. Wouldn't you say, Tim?
Well, all right. I'll go along with it, Ollie.
I had never heard of this one, and I hadn't heard of a few of these. Okay. There's not a pot too crooked that a lid won't fix.
Now, I've never heard that one.
That apparently means there's someone out there for everyone if they look hard enough.
Well, that's good.
There's not a pot too crooked that a lid. It must be fit. Must be fit, not fix. That must just be a typo. There's not a pot too crooked that lid won't fit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I hadn't heard of this one before. It's clearly self-explanatory. Looking as guilty as a nun squatting in a cucumber patch.
There you go.
You have heard of that one?
No, I've never heard of that one. That's got to be something Catholic.
Right. Which means Satanist and God knows what. That just means the whole area is going to hell in a handbasket if they're Catholics there. Outside of Maryland anyway. All right, I know you know this one. Tighter than two ticks on the dog's ass.
Yeah.
That's like thick as thieves for those who don't know it. These are common ones. I know you know it. Living in high cotton. When you're well off, that's like cooking with gas from when gas stoves were something new. Haste makes waste. That goes back to that's ancient. Um, we got a trouble shared is a trouble halved.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a common one. This is doubtless out of Britain, or probably England, certainly out of Britain, more broadly. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a new one that I hadn't heard of before.
Okay.
She's got a silver tongue and an ass of gold.
Sounds good.
Yes. That is described as a formidable, charming woman who is also physically attractive.
I imagine it would be.
Here's one. Now, remember, if you come up with any others that you think of, just feel free to pepper them in now. All right, I'm going to wait privately like that. Okay. This one is apparently one used to caution children. Best get glad in the same breeches you got mad in.
Okay.
We got too poor to paint, too proud to whitewash.
Mm-hmm.
We got fit to be tied. Everybody knows that. A day late and a dollar short. I always heard it as a day late and a dime short. This one's a good one. Sweating like a whore in church. It's a good old one. There's a version of it, which I certainly do not mean in any negative sense, but there's a more modern version of it brought down to date that I very much like, which is sweating like a fag eating a corn dog.
All right.
Sorry, that's a really good one. God willing, and if the creek don't rise,
Mm-hmm.
If good sense was lard, he couldn't grease a pan.
Mm-hmm.
And that dog won't hunt. You know that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bird in the hand worth two in the bush. You know that one.
Mm-hmm.
How
about a willful waste is a woeful want?
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the great Aunt Ruth ones, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Round a rock and not through a clod.
What?
Round a rock, but not through a clod. Refers to the way seeds will react to the soil. In other words, a seed will grow around a rock, but it won't grow through a clod.
And how are we to apply that in the old saying thing? Or would that just
to do with the way things are?
I see now. Getting all zen on me there. Little bit of country haiku. Thinks the sun comes up just to hear him crow.
Yeah.
We got hotter than a $2 pistol.
Yeah.
And I've heard a version which gets used in a different sense. Hotter than a 3-dick dog.
There's that.
Referencing not that it's something illegal, rather that somebody's horny. Here's a good one for people raising cattle. Tighter than a bull's ass at fly time.
Fly season, yeah.
I think that's I think that has to do with someone who's tight-fisted. So maybe that's just
be anything that
is all clenched up about it.
Yeah.
Right. So it could just as easily refer to the Scots, for example. The entire nation of Scotland is probably tighter than a bull's ass at fly time.
Fly season.
Fly season. So ugly she'd make a freight train take a dirt road.
Yeah.
Here's one. Tore plumb out of his frame.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's, out of sorts about something.
Yeah.
We got about to tan your hide, which everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard of this one. Drunkard and Cooter Brown.
Yeah.
I had not heard of that one. Although, of course, down in the South, they still say stuff like 3 sheets to the wind, which that's got to be English. I mean, English and Scots and all that.
Yeah.
Here's one I had never heard before, which is, I don't care if it hair lips granny.
Well, I don't care if it hair lips the Pope.
All right, so that's one that you're familiar with as a variation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, hang on. We got a few here. I'm just going to jump down here. We got some coming through in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are encouraged to give them fatter than a tick on a 7-day suck. Yeah, don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. That's an old classic. Looks like somebody from the Netherlands is saying that they have a version of it there about the pot and the lid.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying that's originally Dutch, which makes sense. Charlemagne is in the house. Hello, sir. If you got any good ones from down your way, throw them in there, sir, please. Let's see. If pots and pans could be hands, they would never have been tinkers. Let's see. Somebody claiming that whores don't get a lot of work in church. Well, I'd say you might want to take a look at the current Catholic clergy if you think that's the case.
Richie comes up with "Don't teach your granny to suck eggs."
Right. Would rather get up to fight than sit down to eat. That's actually a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. About as welcome as an outhouse breeze.
That's always good.
That's a good one. Let's see here. Hair lip and the Pope. It's a famous saying in the mountains.
Yeah, it is.
What else we got? Uglier than 10 miles of muddy road. Right. Let's see here. What else we got?
Interesting that all these little sayings are from the South, is it not?
Well, that's because the Southerners are all superior. And if you don't know it, don't believe it, just ask a Southerner. He'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Or she will.
Well, very, very politely.
So I don't know. It depends on where you catch them. You talk about how polite they are, but I've been on the other end of that too. It ain't always polite. Now, there are generally some precedes, and there are generally ways to get out of it. Generally ways, not always, generally ways to get out of it by being polite, much more so than anywhere else. But it ain't always polite. Then again, I'm a more recent generation, so what do I know?
Exactly.
We have matter in a wet hand,
Mm-hmm.
which is glossed as a hysterically angry woman. And reference to a woman walking away from you, you can say looks like two pigs fighting under a picnic blanket.
Well, you could.
We've also got the two puppies fighting in a croaker sack.
That usually refers to breasts.
Right, the front end, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the shelf kit rather than the window box. All right, I don't know what the hell this is. About to come a gully washer.
Yeah.
Meaning a big rain is on its way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
There's more than one way to skin a polecat. I had always heard
one way to skin a cat.
Right. But, you know, I don't know. Tennessee, who knows how they get shit confused? Who knows? And there's the one that you taught me years ago, which is still in my canon of great favorites, which is like trying to sandpaper a wildcat's asshole in a closed telephone booth.
Yep.
That's a good one. I mean, it takes you right there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
And another old classic of yours was happier than a dead pig in the sunshine in a field of shit.
That's it.
Now, is that one of your coining, or is that a genuine?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
All right. Well, let's see here. We got so hungry I'd eat the north end of a southbound polecat.
Well, all right. That sounds more like a made-up one.
Yeah, or it just I've heard the north end of a southbound fill in the blank a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wedding with no courtings, like victuals with no salt.
Yeah.
He don't even know how to tie up the ass end of a buck. I think that's just got to be anywhere where anybody hunts. They know that one, or would use that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we got any more here.
All right.
More over on our side. Oh, now that's an interesting one. An eye like a traveling rat. That's a really good one. An eye like a traveling rat. Yeah. Fucked up as a football bat. Yeah, I know that one. That's slicker than all shit. Then there's 110 used finer than frog's hair, twice as slippery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What else we got here? looks like we're done with the. If anybody else comes up, and then there's just a few of them here that I had. Some of them I know, or most of them I know. A couple I don't. I'd never heard of pitch woo, referencing a man's best effort to gain the attention of a lady. Pitch and woo.
Well, that's one of the ways of saying it.
You're familiar with it or no?
Oh, yes, I am. Yes.
Pitch and woo. So you had heard of that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right. A reference to a hussy, but of course, we all know what a hussy is, but the description's pretty good. That
hard head makes a soft ass.
That hussy's pants were so tight you could see her religion. All right. Something about flumadiddle.
Yeah.
And I've heard of things like, thingamabob and G-Hall Wimadiddle. And actually, G-Hall Wimadiddle was a thing you whittled. And then you rub this thing back and forth across. It had a little propeller at the end, and you make little notches. And you run it, and it makes the propeller spin. Just dumb shit to make while you're sitting on a porch. Now, of course, skedaddle, everybody should know. But I wonder if skedaddle something from Britain? That sounds almost like it ought to be. I
have no idea.
All right, we got spell, sit for a spell, I'm going to rest for a spell. That's got to be another one out of Britain. All right, but the best has been saved for last.
All right.
The best has been saved for last. This isn't a saying, but it's an expression or a description. I had never heard of this. Grocery store feet. When a person's feet are so black from walking barefoot that it looks like they've been walking around a Kroger with no shoes. Also a way to note how trashy someone is if they go into a store with no shoes on. Them poor babies had grocery store feet, God love them. Their mama ain't doing a thing with them kids. Grocery store feet. I thought that was rather fun.
Well, that's good.
Well, now, you got any? Or are you just going to sit back there better than everybody?
I'm just going to sit back better than everybody.
All right. Well, let me see if we got any left here. We might be done. We might be ready to move on to taking questions then. Yeah, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Yep. Cattywampus, for something that's all crooked or fucked up, or like my life. I'm going to guess Tim does not like Neil Young, but let's ask Tim, what's your opinion on the musician Neil Young?
Well, I'm sure he makes an adequate change from music.
Well, there you have it. You asked, ladies and gentlemen. That's the answer, straight from Tim's mouth.
Yep.
Cat got your tongue. Yeah, these are all just very common ones. Yeah, and I tend to agree that Neil Young can go fuck himself.
Well, I don't know if he can or not, but he definitely makes a change from music.
Right. All right, there it is. Okay. Saigoglin. Yeah, I remember. I think I heard Saigoglin somewhere, but that's a different one. That's from a different zone of the South. I've heard that, yeah, but not in my zone. Like that's probably some weird ass Texas shit. And there ain't no accounting for Texas people. They're all fucking crazy.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so shall we then, in summary, is any final words you have on the South, Tim?
Gonna rise again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Save your Confederate money, boys.
Yeah, wheelbarrows full of it, right?
Yeah. They found a lot of that in England, by the way.
What, Confederate money, did they?
Yeah, sure.
When was this?
Oh, back in the late 60s, early 70s. Fella decided to take a little look around, and they found some that was laid up in accounts that were part of the where you get not only a bank account, but you get a lockbox and all that kind of thing. They found some in a lockbox, some millions of dollars worth of it. A lot of the
Yeah.
British hadn't anticipated that the people in the North would take advantage of uh, their latest grand idea of not being able to support one side in a war in which the other side was against slavery.
Right. They had the plug pulled on being able to support the South.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess that was all planned. The perfidious Albion had that all under control. I'm convinced that,
Except for the ones who wound up with millions of dollars of Confederate money.
Right, but they were. I mean, the simple fact that happened to them proves that they were of no account and got what they deserved. They were not part of the people in the know on what was about to be done. All right, Proud White Settler saying Sagoglin's more Appalachian. I guess it could be, yeah. Yeah, that would still be out of my zone. If it's really properly Appalachian, I didn't get a ton of exposure to that. All right. Check this question out. You, of course, now don't need to get deep into this, but this is funny. It just so happens. Here's the question. Semigog topic of the South makes me think of voodoo. Apparently, in Georgia, it's called hoodoo. Does Tim possess any knowledge on these topics? I'll go ahead and on his behalf say some little knowledge.
Some small amount.
Yes. Are we allowed to say anything about you doing consulting work for certain criminal activities?
Are we? I don't know.
I'm asking.
Right. See.
This would have to do with cities in Texas. One's on one side of the border and one's on the other side.
Let's not.
Okay. Let's leave that alone. But yes, Tim does have considerable knowledge.
Because that gets past voodoo and hoodoo into Santeria, Mayombe, Palolante, Quimbanda, and Umbanda.
Pontos and Ewa-Okes and Dokes and
all sorts of interesting things.
Palomayombe.
Yes, indeed.
Palomonte.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I've been looking at that recently because I need actually, and this just for the hell of it, and we'll move on to other proper topics, but just before I forget, Tim, I am very, very interested specifically, and anybody who's watching who has information on this, any information on African ritual systems that involve white people being the most useful for the magic. So, I mean, we have all the business of what they do with albinos in Africa. God bless it. Çokyasha, Sandegar. Or no, sorry, Çokyasha. You would say Sandegar. I would say hep beraber. Sorry. So the question is the use of white people in African rituals, because we've seen it in Matamoros. And
you mean real white people or black people who've been painted white?
I'll take albinos, I'll take black people who've been painted white, and I'll take real white people because they all support the thing I want to explore. So anything you got on that, we could talk about that offline. We'll talk about this once we're off the live stream because that's part of my work I'm working on.
All right.
Okay, so, but yeah, anybody who is in South Africa or anybody who spent time in Africa who might know more about the use of whites in ritual and the idea that their body parts or, or their corpses or whatever are more useful, please, you can get me at semigog@protonmail.com. So there's that. Okay, so let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just do this question. There you go. If anybody was missing Tim clearing his throat, now you got your dose. Question time. Keep those questions clean, lads and lasses. So there we go. Now we're on question time. Ladies and gents, ask questions. Just put a semiagog in there so I can see it, and I'll notice it, and we'll just answer questions as best we can. As best we can. Look at everybody saying Tim got COVID. Listen to these fools.
No, Tim doesn't have COVID.
Yeah, I was about to say. Plus, COVID generally causes a dry cough. And in case anybody hadn't noticed, Tim's coughs aren't dry.
They're quite productive.
Yeah, there we are. Yep. See, like Dry Boat says, better out than in. All right. So I'm waiting for questions in the meantime. Anything you want to share with this bunch, Tim?
Oh, I'm just kind of looking over some of the comments they've made.
God help you.
That's all right.
All right, here's one for you. Tim, are you familiar with the Knights of the Golden Circle?
Well,
I don't know what the hell that is.
huh.
I'm going to look.
It's one of the ones that was in there with the Sons of the Magnolia and all that mess.
Knights of the Golden Circle, a secret society founded in 1854, the objective of which was to create a new country known as the Golden Circle, Spanish Círculo Dorado, where slavery would be legal. The country would have been centered in Havana and would have consisted of the southern United States and a golden circle of territories in Mexico, which was to be divided into 25 new slave states: Central America, northern parts of South America, and Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and other islands in the Caribbean, spanning 2,400 miles in diameter.
Whoopie-doo. Most things of its sort, it lasted a while, predominantly because they were looking at the vast sugarcane plantations.
Yeah, and apparently there's some claims about it surviving.
Oh, yeah, there's always claims about survival.
Plans to seize Lincoln and inaugurate Breckinridge as president.
Yeah.
That's
why not?
So, yeah, anything in the South where they start talking about knights.
Knights or sons of, things like that,
Whatever. Okay.
It's bullshit.
But yeah. Okay, now let's see what we got here. Ooh, but now Robert from Texas said, where'd it go? Hang on now. Still gold buried hidden from them in many places. Well, I say let's get together and go find it. My mother and father did a book called The Explorer's Limited Guide to Lost Treasure in the United States and Canada. And you can look by state at legends that my mother gathered together and published as, all the remaining clues relative to its probable location and what sort of lore was there around it.
Doubtless an exciting prospect for your mother.
Yeah, well, I guess I could make a fortune selling batteries for metal detectors. Now MCT Semigog, you remember when I asked you if you had made peace with your mortality? Time is drawing nigh.
Yeah.
I'm like somebody threatening to kill me.
I don't know. Time's always drawing nigh.
I was about to say, and not one of us can choose when we go. So,
or how.
Exactly. So I don't know what all that's about.
Hard to say, Ollie.
This from Sarah Connor saying, what are Tim's thoughts on the current border crisis? A new voter base, maybe? What do you think's going on with all of that?
Well, I think it's a new voter base. And I think it's also a way that the Chinese have decided to destroy the United States of America. Because it doesn't bear any resemblance to anything that we're doing with, that we should be doing with immigrants, etc. It's all illegal immigration.
And plenty of it, yeah. Now they're talking about releasing them into the interior of the country without even bothering to set court dates and flying them up close to or driving them or busing them or whatever the hell, transporting them up close to up to the Canada border, near the Canada border.
Who gives a fuck? One of the reasons they're not taking any names and so on is they don't want them corralled up. And they will be. You may have noticed that Biden and Harris are trying as hard as they can to get as many of them in as they can. They just don't know how to make it work right, which is understandable.
They seem to be, does a cat's paw or sock puppet need to know what the hand that puts it through its motions ultimately intends? I mean, they seem to be doing their
Oh,
job
no.
just fine.
They're doing fine on their job, but they don't really understand what the end result is going to be.
What is the end result going to be, Tim?
The end result is going to be a whole bunch of people that are going to get corralled up and,
Gently.
well, clickety clack.
Clickety clack. Man, that'd be nice. Oh, man. Yeah, a girl can dream, right?
It
Pardon?
won't be nice at all. It won't be nice at all.
Well, I mean, if
Very
you
unpleasant.
compare it to the alternative.
Compared to the alternative, is why we're going to utilize it.
Right. And so compared to the alternative, would you say it's very nice?
Well, in its end result, yes.
But not in the part where it involves the getting from A to B.
That's it.
Well, there we
It'll
are.
be
Okay.
very unpleasant.
Well, now I'll go ahead and post this, but now you don't need to do this, Tim. I'd be happy to hear what your favorite Broadway Hollywood musical is, but you really don't have to sing me any of it.
My Fair Lady.
Well, no, that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
That one, actually, yeah, it's just so damn good.
Mm-hmm. Then, of course, my second favorite is Chicago.
Chicago, really? I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
Camelot.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Chicago. You know, where they give them the old razzle dazzle.
Right. Okay.
They both reached for the gun. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know this business at Neville Goddard or the law of attraction. Are you familiar with this, Tim?
No, not at all.
Let's take a quick look, just to be nice.
All right, let's take a quick look.
Let's see what Neville Goddard's law of attraction is. Neville Goddard law of. See a law of assumption. Oh no, that looks like there's a law of attraction too.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Neville believed that if you create a scene of your desire within your imagination and live as though that wish has been fulfilled, ignoring all physical evidence of your current reality, then the imaginal desire would manifest to become your reality, without a doubt, guaranteed to materialize before your very eyes. It's basically it's the same thing as what they used to call creative visualization. See it in your mind in order to have it be there. I mean, they even teach techniques like that to athletes where they imagine overcoming their weightlifting barrier or their time barrier on a run or something. Tim, your thoughts on that?
I think it's very good. I think it has a good bit to do with the art of memory, though, of course, it will have no relationship to it as far as these people are concerned.
Right.
And at the same time, it's the surest way to wind up as Napoleon Bonaparte in the local insane asylum.
That was unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean thinking that you're Napoleon Bonaparte? I was thinking to myself,
is there a difference between thought and reality, Ollie?
I don't know. He should. Well, he imposed his will rather successfully for a time. So
for a time,
you know, imagining you're Bonaparte versus having been.
That's the trick. That's the trick. One imagines.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. You get stuck in a cul-de-sac.
What the hell do we have here? Okay, we got Border Crisis. I'm just going through here because there are a bunch of people who are old channel followers in here, and I want to get their questions. All right. Anybody who's been putting up with us for this long deserves some recognition. This from Kermit O saying, Semigog, what are your experiences with Britain? I've only been twice. The first time I was only in London, and I was there briefly, and I have a number of experiences with the nightlife. Not much to speak of. It was in the mid-90s, and I remember staying in a dumpy little hotel, and there was this horrible Scottish woman who she just clearly did not like the fact that I didn't wake up early. And they had this whole thing where if you stayed there, you got breakfast too, but you had to get up early enough to have the breakfast. And of course, I didn't want to do that because I'd been up drinking all night. And I had no interest in getting up and just honestly, to look at a plate of beans that early in the morning was not my idea of anything acceptable. But there was this buzzer, and she would just hit it to let me know that the breakfast was ready.
Sure.
To let me know, and would just lean on the thing. I remember it was by a Vauxhall Bridge Road tube station or something back in the day. Yeah. I didn't, I like the British
experience, eh?
I like the British Museum, and I like the bookstores. And my bookbinding teacher, before I went, I asked her where I should go to get bookbinding stuff and what I should get while I'm there. I couldn't buy anything big to bring back with me, but I got sewing tape and needles and keys for the tape. I remember I specifically found my way out to a famous, Brit bookbinding store. And otherwise, yeah. And I also had real British food because I met a dude and I was like, y'all don't have food here, man. I was over in Leicester Square and it's all just horrible pizza that's like cardboard. And he's like, we have British food. And he took me to this restaurant and it was great. And ever since that time, I've refused to listen to anyone tell me that the Brits don't have good food. They've got all kinds of great food. Great ears, great cheese. Well, you got to not be a foreigner in Leicester Square, eating from Pizza Hut, so you sort of Leicester. I'm not going to pronounce any of that crap. They're all screwed up. And the second time I went was for a wedding, and it was in Staffordshire, however the hell you say that, Stafford. And so I got to see the mid-country or Midlands or whatever the hell you call that. And all I really remember from that, other than being on one of those double-decker buses and renting a morning suit, so I had the proper top hat and tails and all that crap for the wedding, was that I went into a little shop, a little clothing shop, because I was looking for a shirt or a sweater or something. I'd forgotten something. I was trying to buy it. And I remember these little old ladies who ran the shop came up and they're like, how can we help you? And, asking this kind of stuff. And I remember I got all Southern on them. I'm like, little old ladies, you got to be all polite,
Yes, you do.
So I put on my top Southern manners and I was like, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And they're like, oh, he's saying, ma'am. They were all like, oh. Yeah, they were very nice, very sweet old ladies. They seemed to like me. That's it. That's all I've got. I have nothing else for Britain other than digging the British Library, digging the British Museum, digging the bookstores I went to, but that was it. So,
well, there
you have it. Not much.
Those are your experiences with Britain. Oh, yeah. Why can't the English learn to speak?
Right. Yes. Well, here's one. I'll let you handle this one, Tim. Now that Biden is president, what do you guys think will happen with the South China Sea?
Japan is going to take over a lot of that.
You think Japan will get into it?
Mm-hmm.
I would see that too, but I have to imagine that the degree to which Chinese money has been pumped into the upper echelons of Japanese elites would have subverted that before it's even out of the gate.
No.
You think that the Japanese are insulated culturally enough that they police that?
Let's put it like this. There has been no real meaningful change in Japanese culture since before World War II.
Well, what about all the reconstruction and all the massive changes that have happened since World War II?
And who have they reconstructed?
Okay, if you want to say that there's been no change with the elites, but there has been.
And how is Japan controlled?
Straight through the elites, or you like to call it the old samurai and political class.
Yes. Who will take all the money that China wants to throw at them, and they will very politely take the money and spend it and invest it, and they will tell basically the Chinese to suck a fart.
Well, there it is. Okay. All right.
That's why we have a new prime minister in Japan. No excuse me.
Okay. So you think Japan's going to be in there? I think Taiwan will get more funding and support. Philippines will have to see which way they go. they'll
Greater
probably
Southeast Asian co-prosperity sphere. Yes.
they'll be swinging one way or another, depending on how to ride the current circumstances and squeeze the most money out of both parties. Russia, I'll be interested to see how their East Asia.
Russia's going to stay the fuck away from Japan.
Well, yeah, they learned in 1905, right?
They sure did.
Right. Yeah, the Australia and India. We'll look, but those are sort of my question marks. How all that's going to go.
They'll follow the lead of Japan.
Here's one for you from Bodacious. Hoop snake folklore.
Yeah.
You ever heard of such a thing?
Hoop snake, sure. Joins himself into a hoop and rolls down the countryside.
No, ain't no such thing.
Take a look at the hoop snake.
Oh, they really do roll. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Take a look at him. What does he look like?
It looks like an Ouroboros, of course.
Ah, an Ouroboros.
Let me just see here if we got one of these moving. I'm not sure I buy all this shit. What the hell is going on over here, lad? Let's see if we got it. Let's put a hoop snake over here so we can all see this. What we got here? I need to spawn myself a window. That's the wrong damn type of window now. Come on now, Boomerang. There's one. Let's drag it over here.
Drag it.
YouTube. Get ourselves a hoop snake. Hoop snake. It does not roll around.
Yes, it does.
What are you talking about?
There's no such animal.
It sounds to me like a snipe.
No.
No, it says somebody's looking for a hoop snake and they got like a wild Snorlax. What are you talking about? Hoop snake hunt, warning graphic. You're all full of shit. There's no video of a hoop snake doing a damn thing.
Of course there's no video.
Okay. All right. No offense, Tim, but fuck all y'all. You just put me through a fucking snipe hunt. You dirtbags.
Hoop snakes are very, very old methods of understanding the realities of things. A hoop snake, never found, except anecdotally, and yet it seems to be a predominant feature of Southern folklore, or was until the 1940s or so.
Well, I would appreciate it without having to go through the whole business of being told that it exists and looking for it.
No, it does not exist.
I get it. It's lore. It exists in the imaginal, right? Upstream of reality, in a place where the images are more real than the manifestation.
Indeed so.
Let's look at it like that. Thank you very much. Fuck you too, by the way, Bodacious. All right, let's see here. What do we got here? I didn't see it, but what's this now? Travis Blaze says, any thoughts on Chinese blasting the U.S. in Anchorage? What's all that about?
Oh, that's just their bullshit of putting in lots and lots of having a 4-minute window of opportunity and turning it into over an hour's opportunity.
I'm not sure what on earth you mean. Remember, I have no context.
They're talking. The Chinese wanted to try out Biden in a fashion that made Biden look like the fool that he is.
It was a conference where the crappy cabinet member came with his purple-haired girlfriend and was basically showed his flaccid little wee and his inability to take any kind of standard position against the Chinese. That's what this refers to.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I missed it. I'm like thinking to myself, what blew up? Sorry.
The talk, basically.
Right. So it's the same thing that we're seeing around the world. Everyone is laughing at us. Everyone is laughing at our military. Everyone is laughing at our current circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's
continue to until Trump takes it back.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. How about this one? You like Creedence Clearwater Revival, Tim?
Sure.
What's your favorite Creedence Clearwater song?
Run Through the Jungle.
No comment. All right. All right. Mine, actually, I got two. If it's actually them singing, my favorite song of theirs is "Fortunate Son." But if it's a cover, because there's a cover of "Bad Moon Rising" by 16 Horsepower that's way better than their originals. And by the way, if people don't know it, 16 Horsepower, David Eugene Edwards and Woven Hand, absolutely great band. And what's surprising is there are a whole bunch of Christian folk on the dissident right, and they don't even know about 16 Horsepower, which is just crazy.
All right.
All right. Anyway, yeah, you don't like anything later than Dr. Hook or what's her damn name?
Boom, 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 boom.
Just
I
try.
wonder why I don't like it.
There's like that damn Lightning Bar Blues, Hoyt Axton. It's a great song, love it. Totally dig me some Hoyt Axton. You turned me on to that. I have tried every time I look at Dr. Hook, and I'm like, get that shit away from me. Just get it away from me.
You got to be in the right mood for Dr. Hook.
Yeah, that involves like somewhere between a 12-pack and a case of beer, and possibly a partial lobotomy.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I like the one called "I'm a Millionaire."
I'll bet you do. But then again, you like, what's that damn one from you love all that crap out of the Magic Christian.
Oh yeah.
It's where he's eating the parking ticket and shit.
Yeah.
And sure. What's one with Yul Brynner and Drag?
Yeah.
What's that one? What's the song he sings?
Oh yes. Mad About the Boy.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Mad About the Boy.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking creepy.
That was good, wasn't it?
That's some creepy shit. All right, this is just crazy. I don't think there's going to be a single one. But Tim, do you have a favorite book and/or favorite movie?
The favorite book is a particular translation of the Tao Te Ching.
That would be the Macintosh.
Yes, it would. And the movie. Magnificent Seven.
That's totally unexpected. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure I believe him, because if he really loved that movie, I would have heard about it a long time ago. You don't talk so good, do you, Cajun Bob? Yeah, I don't. I think he just came off the hip with that one, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Yeah, that's a recent thing. You got this from Travis Blaze. Any thoughts on Biden now trying to pressure the Supreme Court with warrantless seizures of guns and an executive order to seize them? And also, before you answer that, I just noticed this come through. Get over here to Telegram. Sorry, guys. Follow me on Telegram. Follow me on Odyssey. Send folding money. Send lawyers guns and money.
Because
what?
Because I'm.
Because I'm?
Yeah.
That's where that song goes?
No.
Oh.
That's just a lyric from the song.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a desperate man.
Oh, okay. There we go. Here it is. This. Just earlier today, from right around 4 o'clock, so a couple hours ago, this came up through Disclose. Says gun law. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit just rules that there is no right to carry, either openly or concealed, in public. This ruling impacts right to carry laws in Alaska, Hawaii, California, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, and I want to say Montana. Is that what MT is the abbreviation for?
I don't know.
So yeah, putting that together with this Ninth Circuit ruling and this business of Travis Blaze asking about Biden talking about warrantless seizures of guns, and executive order to seize guns, and then we've got these recent conveniently timed mass shootings, and we have the business of closing gun loopholes and all the rest of the garbage that's currently up in front of the legislature. What are your thoughts on all this in general, Tim?
I think it's about right. I see Mr. Biden and Kamala Harris trying to make good on taking all the guns. They don't seem to realize that the Ninth Circuit's going to be overruled. The anything that Biden tries to do with executive orders, etc., is going to be declared unconstitutional. Aside from which, some very old Supreme Court precedent states that a state may give its people many more rights than the federals do. And that's fine. The states are the font and origin of all rights because the states are the basic organization of the people.
I get it. Now, I'm not trying to be fresh.
No, I understand.
But allow me to observe, with full respect, that we're also not supposed to have rigged elections, and we're also not supposed to have communists take over the country, and we're also not supposed to have a Supreme Court that refuses to hear cases and claims that people don't have standing. So, I mean, everything you're talking about presumes that some veneer of the rule of law persists, and we've just seen
flush. I'm sorry,
it doesn't.
I know, which is why I say they're trying to get as much of it in as they can to mummick up the works as much as they can. They realize they're going to be a short-lived phenomenon.
You think so?
I don't see any other way they could go aside from that, putting forth this mess.
All right. So the basic idea is that it's going to get worse before it gets better in the immediate future.
Yeah.
And then there will come a great national pushback.
Yes.
Triggered to some extent by revelations which have yet to be revealed.
Or the seizures of guns and an executive order to seize them. Please. That's the quickest way old Biden can get himself into more trouble he can get out of. You realize how many sheriffs are going to say no to that?
Yeah, a lot of them. And they're already starting to.
Yep.
Mainly because they don't want their officers getting shot.
Well, they don't want their officers getting shot, and they tend to realize that there are people who are voting tend to be gun owners.
Yeah, and I should also be fair. There are plenty of sheriffs. I mean, there are some bad ones, but I tend to think that still the majority of them believe in the rule of law and in the Constitution. You know,
and there'll be a lot of people who have taken the oath to uphold the Constitution, who are sheriff's deputies, who are going to tell these people, no, I ain't doing it.
Well, let's see. I do think, at least in the short term, it's going to get a good bit.
Going to get spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Minecraft, anyway.
Yes, indeed. Well, there that is. Well, let's see here. Looks like I missed me some of the questions come through here. Man, this is good. This is like when you're doing a take and you're trying to get a full take for like a shot for a movie, and you're hoping you don't screw up. And as you get closer to the end, you're praying that there's no screw up, because this one might get to stay up on YouTube, Tim.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah. All right. Let me see here. Surely we have some last questions here. I'm sorry, folks. I just got myself a little lost here in the mist. I don't know. Something's coming out of the Netherlands saying, Semigog, I'm wondering about Tim's patch on his forehead. Is he doing fine, or do we need to put some foldables in the pot for him? Oh, well, I think you always need to put foldables in the pot for Tim. But in terms of your forehead's better than it's ever been the entire time you've been on this channel.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that at least is getting better.
Yeah, it's just a little spot here and a little bunch up in here.
Yeah, it used to be a good bit bigger.
It used to be a good bit thinner too.
Yeah.
I was fixed to have skulls showing through.
That's when people bump your head with things they shouldn't.
Well, you know how it is.
Well, this is where Tim goes, you should have seen the other guy.
Yeah, you should have.
All right. That's about to get rated XXX there, so it's... Okay. Now we've talked.
It's not like, graphic stuff,
Yes.
just so you understand.
Yes. This is from. There are a couple questions about this. We've touched it in the past, but I'm wondering if just very quickly you could answer this, Tim. Your thoughts on this business of Russia and China appearing, at least, to become much more closely aligned. I did notice that there have been announcements about how they're going to cooperate on space program stuff. We're talking about putting base on the moon. I also noticed, and I think it's in here in the comments somewhere, I'm lost among them, but I do see there's some remarks about them cooperating on some sort of long-range air defense missile system. So, what are your thoughts on the apparent cooperative alignment that's coming to this?
Very trusting nature of the Russian people and Vladimir Putin, in conjunction with the very trusting nature of Mr. Xi. I think they've got a wonderful opportunity to cooperate one with another, especially when it comes to space.
So your guess would be similar to mine, that it's short-lived. Russia's trying to figure out what money they can get out of China in the short term. China's trying to figure out what sort of tech support they can get out of Russia in the meantime. Both of them want to show a strong front to be able to shore up their negotiating position against Biden, but it's all doomed not to last very long.
That's right, because
of the trusting nature of the two respective countries, and because they're both on the Eurasian landmass, and there can only be one landmass power there.
On top of which, you've got India and Japan and Australia.
Yeah, together with the U.S. in this quad. Yeah, and Vietnam and the Philippines could, for the time being.
How big a bunch of people there are in India. All of them just waiting on somebody to have as an enemy.
Well, there you go. And they'll start dancing in the streets. It's going to be like Slumdog Millionaire. You're going to be partying.
Ooh.
All right. I'm not sure I agree or disagree with 99 Iron Duke, but I recognize his presence. I welcome him here. Fine gentleman. Happy to see him.
Always good to see you.
And what else do we got here? Let's get down here.
Dear Iron Duke, do get back with us long about June or July.
Well, I'm sure he will. Don't say that. They'll come back. They all showed up to watch me eat crow, believe me. So they'll be back for that. But if I can crow rather than eating crow, I'll take that too. This is John Ski, another fine gentleman. That's his Creed's Clearwater Revival song of choice.
I can see that. It's right out my back door.
Okay, now carefully, Tim. Now carefully. But here's a question about whether or not you're getting the vaccine.
No.
Well, no, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I am completely in agreement with 99 Iron Duke on this one. Seven Samurai was much better than Magnificent Seven. And as a matter of fact, I'm a fan of what is called samurai cinema. If you want to get into that, Harry Carey is a good one. Sword of Doom is another good one. I mean, everybody talks about the Kurosawa ones. But yeah, all that, Toho scope, all that 60s stuff, the black and white ones, very well shot, very well produced. I find those well worth my time.
I liked Yul Brynner.
Did you?
I did.
Boy, your accent sure is funny, Cajun Bob. I'm like, yeah, the Russian
walk.
Pardon?
I liked watching him walk.
I guess Russians are the only ones who can fake an American walk, because they also grew up in a place with huge amounts of space.
There's more than that to him. He was well trained in how to walk.
Well, yeah, I do actually. You do see him do a walk, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Even in that one, what is it, The Ultimate Fighter or whatever? What's that weird one in the post-apocalyptic 70s one where he's got his... Anyway, we are not going down to Yul Brynner.
Even in Moses, in the Ten Commandments.
Oh, it's the Pharaoh, right?
Yeah, he walked. He walked well. Walked better than anybody I've ever seen.
All right, now you're sounding a little bit gay. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. It's like when Rod Steiger in, God, I forgot the name of the movie now, dug his pants out of his ass He did beautifully. He's walking away from the camera, back to the stagecoach, and he reaches back with his right hand.
picks it out of his ass.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you see that with.
You got to remember, people have certain traits, certain abilities that nobody seems to realize are integral parts of their character.
Yeah, like the fact that that Cary Grant spent time doing acrobat shit.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it in how he moves, how he holds himself, his posture.
Yes, you can, but not as well as you can Yul Brynner.
All right, I'll take a look. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm inclined to come down on the side of Cary Grant, just as a matter of principle, but I'll take a look. I will attempt to suspend disbelief. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Bearing in mind, of course,
that Samurai was better than the Magnificent Seven, but so few people have ever watched it for the work of the eyebrows and the eyes in it.
Yeah, yeah, and especially that scene where they go to the mill to talk to the old man. Yeah, yeah. All right, what do we got? We got 9 minutes left, so let me just look here and see what we got for.
What do we got?
We got. Be careful answering this one, Tim, if you don't mind, but maybe try quickly. This is Luis Clarizio saying, my work is making the jab mandatory. I'm in healthcare in the U.S. Any thoughts or comments would be appreciated. Get a different job?
It doesn't matter.
I would say if you have any choice about taking a vaccine, maybe opt for one that isn't mRNA.
That's not his job. His job is to give the jab.
No, I think what the reference here is he's got to receive one, or she.
Is making the jab mandatory?
Yes, they're making the receipt.
I'm in healthcare.
Assume, just bear with me. Just imagine. Just imagine that that it's
there's no jabbers. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, it's easy if you try. So, what would you say if it's about receiving it?
Well, I think he ought to refuse it if he feels like it.
Absolutely, it's a matter of conscience.
Being what they are.
Right. All right, we'll leave that be then. Good luck with that. Here's one. Will asking Semigog, is Tim in hospital? Are you in hospital, Tim?
No, I'm not in the hospital, Ollie. I'm in my bedroom. I'm about 8 feet away from the computer I'm usually on. I've got a brand new Panasonic Toughbook computer that I am using for this because, to be honest with you, getting about that 10 feet to where the other computer was and getting it all set up was exhausting to me.
Well, so now you can be brisk, and you can and you can bring that energy to bear.
Have you not noticed that I've brought the energy to bear?
I have.
Well,
I have.
I'm doing my best to keep us on YouTube.
Absolutely. And
we are.
And you're full of sunshine, as always.
I am.
Absolutely. It's going to be a bright, 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 sunshiny day.
Yes, well.
John Gore says Cary Grant did lots of acid, too. I was not aware of that.
Yes, he did.
He did? Really?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I thought there was something I liked about him. All right, let's see where there was something about another. Somebody recommended another damned samurai cinema film, and I hadn't seen it, so I actually want to.
Cary Grant got into a lot of trouble for doing acid one time.
Did he?
Yes, he chased a young lady. He was buck naked, and he chased her down and was unable to catch her.
Well, that happens. Yeah, they generally, you can't catch them unless they want you to.
That's right.
That's how they do that, right?
Yep.
Okay, where the hell? It was called Black Cat or something. Damn it! I want to write it down so I can watch it. It said something. It was the Twilight Samurai. I saw a 99 Iron Duke. I saw the Twilight Samurai. That's the one. Isn't that the one where the guy only carries a wakizashi? He only has the shorter sword, but he specializes in it. I think that's the one. That's actually quite good. Very good. If I'm remembering the same one. I could actually probably watch that one again.
You ought to.
I should. I tell you what, it's all about finding a good movies to watch, and there aren't that many. I've gone through the Sam Peckinpahs that are good. I just watched Straw Dogs, man, and I had not seen that before. That'll make you not want to move to the English countryside. Hell, Slicker's not on a brass doorknob. They're going back through it. All right. Do we have any last questions here, ladies and gents? If not, then I think I'm going to wrap this up here. All right. Here's a quick one. Tim. This is a mycology question. Have you ever seen glow-in-the-dark mushrooms?
Yes.
And do you think these were used to see when humans lived underground, making our eyes most sensitive to the color green?
No, I do not.
Oh, all right. But you have seen them.
Oh, yes, I've seen them. They come in various colors. Most of them shades of green.
All right. Man, I'm going to look for it. I think it's called Black Cat. Man, I missed the Samurai Cinema movie. I'm going to get it. I'm going to go look right now. We got 1 minute left. Let me see. Wow.
Have to be careful of glow-in-the-dark mushrooms because most of them tend to be poisonous.
Oh, yep. Here it is. Black Cat, 1968. Yabu no naka no kuroneko. Yabu no naka no kuroneko. 2 women are raped and killed by samurai soldiers. Soon they reappear as vengeful ghosts who seduce and brutally murder the passing samurai. Nice. It's always weird when you see their eyebrows are like painted up here. Okay, cool. I'll check it out. There it is. And I'll go watch Twilight Samurai again because it's been probably 8-9 years since I've seen it. Okay. Yeah. Black Cat and Bamboo Grove. That's right, from Chorus. All right, I got it. All right, then, excuse me. Tim,
Sure.
Thank you very, very much. Do you have any final remarks?
Keep them cards and letters coming. Mostly the letters with that folded money in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta have that folded money.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
Fold money. Buy books. Thanks to John Gorse again for the nice book, Cultured Grudge, from this press called Antelope Hill Publishers. I will check it out at my earliest opportunity. Buy my beautiful poetry book, Cinders from the Glimmery of Youth. Buy my beautiful shill-tastic science fiction novel called Novella, called Vinculum. I think I will shortly be having a multi-party, let's call it a multiplayer talk show. I'm thinking about calling it Popular Opinions. Anyway, I'm thinking about doing a show with multiple people. So I'm going to be reaching out to folks who've been on my channel before, maybe do something with them. And I'm still going to be having a workshop in the future where I do some communications planning and thinking, but it will be done live. All right, so that is the gist of it, ladies and gentlemen. Always, as always, I thank you very, very much for joining us. I thank you, Mr. Tim, for your patience and willingness to talk to us all.
Natal is very much in my mind.
Natal?
Natal.
Ha, very good, very good. Another channel viewer and a friend of the channel. Okay. Well, then, thank you all very much. Until next time, I am Semiagok, and I am out.